So here's a question for you. What makes someone willing to die for millions of people they have never met and never will? It's a huge question, right? Well, that's the power and honestly the puzzle of nationalism. In this explainer, we're going to dig into Benedict Anderson's really cool idea of imagined communities to figure out what a nation actually is and why it commands such unbelievable loyalty.
All right, to really get to the heart of nationalism, we have to start with the most extreme thing it asks of people: sacrifice.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Over the last couple of centuries, literally millions of people have willingly died for their country. But your country is made up almost entirely of strangers, people you'll never see, never meet, never even know their names. So what on earth could possibly inspire that level of commitment? Anderson calls the nation a limited imagining. And that right there, that's the key. It's an imagining. It's this idea of fraternity, of brotherhood, that is so incredibly powerful it can make dying seem better than being dishonored. The whole mystery of nationalism, it really starts to unlock with that one simple word: imagining. Okay, so what does Anderson actually mean by imagined? It's a really simple idea, but it has massive implications for how we see the world around us. This is the absolute core of his idea. A nation isn't a mountain range or a river you can point to. It's a deep, powerful feeling of connection that lives inside the minds of millions of people all at once. And here is the most important part to get right. When he says imagined, he does not mean it's fake or false or made up like a fairy tale. He just means that it has to be created in our minds. It's constructed, and we all agree to hold it in our collective consciousness. Think of it like this. If you live in a tiny village, your community is real because you know everybody. You see them face to face. But a nation of millions? There's just no way you can know them all. So instead, you imagine that connection. You have this image in your head that there are millions of other people out there just like you, sharing your story, sharing a destiny. That's the imagined community. So this imagining isn't just some vague, fuzzy feeling. It has three really specific parts. First, it's limited. It has borders. There's an us and a them. Second, it's sovereign. It's born out of the idea of being free and in charge of its own destiny. And third, and this is the big one, it's a community. It's imagined as this deep comradeship that cuts across all lines of class or wealth. The richest person and the poorest person are, in this sense, equal comrades. Now, I know this can still feel a little abstract, so let's ground it in something physical, something powerful that I bet you've seen or at least heard of, that shows this whole idea in action. Anderson points to these monuments. You can find them in capitals all over the world, and he says, look, these are the ultimate symbols of this imagined community. As the world was becoming less religious in a traditional sense, these tombs became a new kind of sacred place. They're almost like religious artifacts for the nation itself. And the real power of these tombs is kind of wild. It comes from the fact that they're anonymous. It's powerful because no one knows who is in there. That allows any person, a mother, a father, a sibling, to stand there and imagine their own lost loved one is inside. Because the soldier has no name, he can be every soldier. He is purely American or French or whatever the nation is. He belongs to all of us. And because of that, we all belong to him.
So to really hammer this point home, Anderson asks us to do a little thought experiment. Can you picture a tomb of the unknown Marxist? Or maybe a cenotaph for fallen liberals?
It just sounds weird, doesn't it? It feels almost silly. And that absurdity, that feeling that something is off, tells us that nationalism is doing something completely different from other political ideas. It's tapping into a much deeper human need.
And this brings us right back to where we started, back to that question about sacrifice. The reason that tomb feels so sacred, and the reason people will die for their country, it's all about how nationalism deals with the biggest questions we have: death, meaning, and immortality.
See, political ideas like liberalism or Marxism, they're mostly about how to organize our lives right now. They don't have a lot to say about why we have to suffer or what happens after we die. But nationalism, it wades right into that territory in a way that's very similar to religion. So as the old religious certainties started to fade a few hundred years ago, this big hole opened up. What's the point of it all? What makes a life or a death meaningful? Well, nationalism offered a new kind of answer. It gives you a story, one that connects you to a past that goes back centuries and a future that will go on forever. Your individual life and your death can now have meaning because you're part of this immortal story of the nation. And that's the magic trick, right there.
You didn't choose to be born Japanese or Brazilian or Nigerian. That was just the chance of birth. But nationalism takes that pure accident and it turns it into a glorious destiny. Suddenly, you're not just you anymore. You are a vital piece of an immortal community.
And that brings us full circle. People are willing to make that ultimate sacrifice, not for a politician, not for a policy, but for that feeling, for that deep, horizontal comradeship. They do it for the imagined community that gives their short, finite lives a feeling of infinite meaning.
So think about it. We all live inside these imagined communities, not just our nations, but maybe our cities, or even something like the global fan base for a sports team. The question isn't really if they exist. The real question is, what do they ask from us? And maybe more importantly, what are we willing to give to them in return?